Lo Sontag is a feminist, urbanist, critic, and essayist based in the city of New Jersey. She is currently a 2025 Next City Vanguard Fellow and a Third World Newsreel Fellow. Previously, she was an Ethics and Equity Fellow at the Lincoln Land Policy Institute. She runs Sprawlism, a feminist cultural criticism project. So with this all said, I'm just done. I'm very excited for this event. And Lo, the floor is yours. We're very excited to have you here. So I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Paula, for the introduction and the amazing conversation. I've had many conversations with her, and she is just as exciting as she is right now, which is awesome. I love that. Also, thank you, Danae, for being my moderator. I've known you for so long, so talented, so wonderful. Tony, thank you for doing this parking reform network. This is awesome. And with that, I'm going to start. You guys can see my screen. You can see everything, right? Okay, great, 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 great. All right. Elite capture and public space. I want to first start off by saying I'm influenced by John Maynard Keynes, Donald Shoup, Henry Lefebvre. I know you're like, what? That doesn't matter. Okay, look, people have a variety of things they're influenced by. Norham Bassam, Leslie Kearns, Dolores Hayden, Jennifer Deal, Jana Jacobs, Joseph Stiglitz, and countless others. We all stand on the shoulders of giants, so I want to acknowledge that. So with that, I'm going to say the free market is not a natural or a neutral state of affairs, but a political project upheld by the specific legal and regulatory framework and architecture. This framework is meticulously designed to privilege certain actors and outcomes while presenting them as the inevitable result of natural laws. This dynamic is what political philosopher Ali Fimi Taiwo termed elites, called the elite capture, where the powerful co-opt the language of concepts like freedom and efficiency to serve their own interests. In this case, the rhetoric of the market freedom often serves to legitimize the concentration of wealth, power, effectively socializing risk and cost while privatizing gain. Therefore, our task is not to accept this framing, but to critically demystify it. We must deconstruct this what we're doing, deconstruct the hegemonic narrative of the free market to reveal the policy choices in mask and to advocate for regulatory environment and consciously designed for equity and the public good. And you're probably like, what's going on here? Okay. This theoretical framework finds a potent and tangible application in urban policy, specifically in debate over parking. The concept of free parking, famously deconstructed by economist Donald Shoup, serves as a perfect microcosm of this larger dynamic. Shoup demonstrates that free parking is, in fact, a massively expensive public subsidy for the private vehicle storage. Municipal mandates require developers to build parking, a cost that is then passed on to all citizens through higher rents and prices, regardless of whether they own a car. This is a clear case of socialized cost for privatized benefit. Thus, the fight over curb space is not a neutral market outcome, but a political struggle over how we allocate public land. The language of free parking is an ideological tool that captures public space for a specific privileged use, effectively for privilege of use, effectively excluding more equitable and productive alternatives like dedicated bus lanes, bike share, corrals, or public plazas. By rejecting the myth of free market in the realm of parking policy, we can begin to envision a curve that is managed democratically and priced efficiently, prioritizing people over the storage of private vehicles. The idea of a free market. I'm going to talk about Joseph Stiglitz. Keep in mind, it's going to be this part can be a little long, but then it's going to be shorter. Joseph Stiglitz argues in The Road to Freedom, markets are shaped and sustained by legal frameworks, policy decisions, and institutional design. Deregulation is not the absence of rules, but a reallocation of power, often favoring corporations while exposing workers and communities to risk. Stiglitz critiques how neoliberalism cloaks exploitation in the language of freedom, allowing corporations to pollute, overcharge, and evade accountability under the guise of market liberty. From an LPE perspective, the market is a legal construct. Property rights, contracts, enforcement, zoning laws, and labor regulations are all state-created tools that determine who benefits and who bears the risk. Deregulation and urban planning, such as allowing free parking or gig-based delivery systems, doesn't remove rules. It replaces democratic oversight with corporate convenience, transferring risk from firms to vulnerable populations. Just want to give you like a groundwork of what I'm talking about. Elite capture refers to the process by which the powerful groups reshape public goods to serve private interests. Drawing from Olufemi Taiwo concepts, this presentation will explore how parking, ostensibly a public utility, has been appropriated to benefit wealthier car owner individuals. Public space, originally intended for collective life and democratic assets, is increasingly privatized for car storage. This transformation is not accidental, but a result of deliberate policy choices that prioritize elite convenience over communal well-being. The law and political economy framework, think about Purdy, Amy Kapinski, reveals that markets are legal constructs and deregulation is often a reconfiguration of rules to privatize gains while socializing risk. Parking exemplifies this dynamic where the costs are hidden in everyday expenses borne by the working class, while the benefits accrue to a privileged few. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't show that. In urban environments, parking infrastructure, in urban environments, parking infrastructure consumes vast amounts of land, often exceeding the space allocated for parks, schools, or housing. For example, Los Angeles has approximately 3.3 parking spaces per car. That's my hometown, in case you guys didn't know. With around 14% of its land dedicated to parking. This disproportionate allocation reflects a policy-driven demand rather than organic necessity. Demand-side economics illustrates that consumer demand is shaped by regulatory frameworks such as minimum parking requirements, which artificially inflates the need for parking. And these policies benefit wealthier households. Those earning over $100,000 a year are twice as likely to own multiple vehicles while imposing hidden fees on non-drivers. Feminist urbanism critiques this spatial logic by highlighting how it excludes transit-dependent individuals and those engaged in life-sustaining work. Parking infrastructure, therefore, is not neutral. It is a manifestation of elite capture that marginalizes vulnerable populations. Hidden costs and regressive taxation, temporal dispossession. I hate the term time poverty, so I don't use it. I don't like it. And gendered burdens. The notion of, there you go. The notion of free parking is a myth. According to the late and great Donald Shoup, each parking space can add between $10,000 to $25,000 to housing costs. These expenses are embedded in rent, groceries, service, disproportionately affecting renters and non-drivers. This constitutes a regressive tax where lower income individuals subsidize the convenience of wealthier car-owning households. The economic burden is not limited to direct costs. It extends to opportunity costs, such as the land that could be used for affordable housing, green spaces, or public transit infrastructure. Feminist economics emphasizes that this hidden taxation undermines the economic autonomy of caregivers and transit-dependent workers who are often women and people of color. By prioritizing car storage over communal needs, parking policy perpetuates economic inequality and spatial injustice. Women disproportionately bear the burden of unpaid care work, spending twice as much time on these tasks compared to men. Also, when without children, they make less money than men and are often forced to drive until they qualify for places to live. In addition, any public transit that women are predominantly users of has less upkeep, less frequency. It's certainly the case where I live in the city of New Jersey. Not a mistake. It's a provocation by when I'm saying city of New Jersey. In addition, I refuse to let the feminist urbanism conversation devolve into taking care of babies. Nothing's wrong with babies. Because even if you do have a baby, or do not, sorry, you do not have a baby, you will still be punched in the face daily with sexism on your commute. Auto asphyxiation, urban planning exacerbates this temporal dispossession when people, not middle class men, are stripped of control over their time due to structural forces and misogyny by creating long, uncomfortable commutes and limiting access to essential services and making us late to work or with me, making me break the law to go to work because I have to like ride my bike through the park, and that's illegal in New Jersey. All this is justified through market logic, treating lives that aren't going to Manhattan's financial district or people who work in the arts or social services or at home as disposable inputs in a profit-driven system. Feminist urbanism critiques this framework by advocating for infrastructure that supports community well-being. Parking infrastructure designed for speed and convenience neglects the needs of the community and reinforces gendered and racial inequalities. True solidarity requires reimagining urban space to prioritize community and the environment over consumption. Law on political economy of parking, deregulation, and coercive infrastructure. All right, the law and political economy framework that the markets are states that the markets are not natural phenomena, but legal constructs shaped by regulatory decisions. In this context, deregulation is not the absence of rules, but a reconfiguration that favors capital interests. Parking policy exemplifies this dynamic. Minimum parking requirements and zoning laws create artificial demands benefiting developers and car owners while marginalizing transit users and pedestrians. And TOD initiatives often fail when they prioritize developer returns over equitable access to housing and transit. This regulatory capture shifts liability and risk from corporations to individuals, particularly low income, women, transgender people. Feminist urbanism and LPE together advocate for reclaiming regulation as a democratic tool to protect bodily autonomy and promote collective well-being. Okay. I'm going to click those in a second. Deregulation in urban planning is often framed as liberation, especially in the context of micromobility and delivery services. However, this narrative is masked a coercive regulation that transfers risk from corporations to vulnerable populations. For instance, bike lanes designed to accommodate 30 miles per hour pedal assist bicycles prioritize speed over safety, excluding children, elders, and caregivers. And these lanes become hostile infrastructure engineered for corporate profits rather than community use. Just as deregulated micromobility infrastructure prioritizes corporate speed over community safety. Free parking masquerades as a public good while concealing a coercive regulatory regime that subsidizes car dependency and privatizes mobility. Hidden subsidy for corporations, free parking is not free. It is a massive public subsidy that benefits developers, retailers, and delivery platforms by externalizing the cost of car infrastructure into cities and taxpayers. This mirrors how bike lanes engineered for 30 miles per hour pedal assist bikes serve corporate logistics rather than community mobility. Risk transfers to vulnerable populations by prioritizing car access, car walkability, walkability, free parking policies expose pedestrians, especially children, elders, and disabled people, or people who are just not actual cars themselves, to increase danger just as fast as bike lanes exclude slower, more vulnerable users. Free parking infrastructure excludes those who rely on transit, walking, or biking. Hostile infrastructure, parking lots, and curbside-free parking zones become hostile spaces, heat islands, collision zones, spaces of antisocial behavior, and barriers to public space. They're designed as places to go through, not gathering, echoing the algorithmic death races of delivery workers forced to navigate unsafe terrain.
Micromobility capture and free parking capture go hand in hand because they both represent forms of urban deregulation that prioritizes corporate convenience over community well-being while shifting public costs and risk into vulnerable populations. And here's how they intersect. So then you're like, why are you talking about bikes? And because bikes and parking just they're kind of together. Shared logic of deregulated space. Both micromobility and free parking are framed as liberatory. Micromobility as freedom from cars and free parking as freedom to access urban space. But in practice, micromobility captures, deregulates speed and safety standards to benefit delivery platforms and tech companies. Free parking capture deregulates land use and curb space to benefit retailers, developers, and logistic firms. In both cases, public space is privatized under the guise of innovation and accessibility. Infrastructure built for going through and not people. Expansive free parking zones and high-speed bike lanes are designed to maximize speeds, facilitating fast deliveries, quick turnovers, and seamless logistics for cars and corporations. But this infrastructure excludes slower, more vulnerable users, pedestrians, children, just people walking around. Free parking in particular consumes valuable urban land that could otherwise support housing, green space, or community services. It reinforces car domination and logistics capitalism, making cities less livable and less equitable. The risk transfers to workers and communities. Free parking encourages more driving, which increases traffic violence. Which I hate using that term, but what can we do? I got 30 minutes. Air pollution and urban heat, especially in low-income and racialized neighborhoods. Meanwhile, delivery drivers or pedal assist bikes face algorithmic pressures to meet quotas while navigating unsafe car-centric streets shaped by parking priorities. In both cases, corporations externalize risk. They profit from deregulated logistics while workers and residents absorb the environmental and physical and social harm. Feminist urbanist alternatives. Feminist urbanism challenges both car-centric planning and deregulated logistics by advocating for, speed limits for those bikes. Yes, 15 miles per hour, just need to go faster than that. The elimination of free parking in favor of public transit, green space, and community-centered design. Unionization of delivery workers and investment in collective mobility, not infrastructure that serves corporate convenience at public expense. Okay, here, reclaiming public space and regulations, democratic tool, imagining a just and urban future. Regulation should not be viewed as bureaucratic restraint, but as a democratic mechanism to protect public interest. Reclaiming regulations means rewriting rules to prioritize safety, equity, and collective well-being, not subsidizing car dominance through free parking. Free parking incentives incentivizes sprawl, undermines public transit, and erodes walkability communities by dedicating vast urban land to idle vehicles instead of people. It's a hidden tax on the climate, on climate resilience and social cohesion. Regulation should instead support infrastructure that fosters caregiving, community safety, and bodily autonomy, like protected bike lanes, capped pedal assist speeds, the robust transit network. Feminist urbanism and law and political economy, I'm going to say from now on LPE, challenges the tokenism also that uses marginalized and historically excluded voices to legitimize car-centric planning. Like, oh, how are they going to get to work? If I have to hear that one more time, I'm going to scream. Anyway, by confronting elite capture and market tyranny, we can transform urban spaces into inclusive environments that serve the many and not the few. And as you see, I have all of my references at the bottom of the footnotes if you guys are interested in all those things. Anyway, some people are not. All right, a just urban future. Envision cities where public space is shared equitably, mobility is safe and accessible, and infrastructure supports life-sustaining work. This includes unionizing delivery drivers, investing in public transit, designing bike lanes that accommodate all ages and abilities. It requires rejecting deregulation that benefits corporation. It requires rejecting deregulation that benefits corporation at the expense of community safety. By integrating feminist urbanism and LPE principles, we can build cities that prioritize care, solidarity, democratic governance. This vision challenges the status quo of elite, of elite capture and reclaims public space as a common for all. It is a call to action for policymakers, economists, and urban planners to center equity and justice in every aspect of urban design. Okay, one moment here. All right, power and climate framing of parking policy. All right, here. And also kind of, a lot of times when we're talking about these issues, we're not, we're not doing it from a place of strength. And I kind of want to talk about like, issues of free parking from a strength perspective and highlight how it undermines autonomy and spatial power for marginalized groups. Free parking limits mobility options for non-drivers and forces reliance on cars, which are not equitable or accessible. They're now giving people who don't have money subprime loans for cars, used cars. Okay, that's happening. Minimum parking requirements can add over $50,000 to the cost of housing, pricing out low-income residents, exacerbating housing insecurity. Additionally, up to 30% of urban traffic consists of people just looking for parking. And you know what? Like during the holiday season, that's even more. People are getting run over because people are trying to find a parking space so they can get gifts for people. Contributing to congestion, emission. This framing moves beyond the traditional care lens and emphasizes the structural power dynamics at play. By prioritizing car storage and cities and reinforcing spatial control by dominant groups and deny agency to those who navigate urban environments without private vehicles. Reimagining parking policy through the lens of strength and autonomy can lead to a more equitable and empowering urban design. In addition, I want to bring this up because everything is not a one-trick type pony type thing. Zoning alone won't undo housing racism. Rezoning has not led to a stable or growing Black population in culturally integrated neighborhoods, despite the promises of equity. The outcome showed temporary reshuffling, not inclusion. Some argue the Fair Housing Act infringes on personal choice, but when housing decisions drive urban sprawl, climate emissions, and segregation, they're no longer private, they're political. Racist and classist housing exclusion forces long commutes and inefficient energy use, harming the planet and isolating communities. In the political north, where Black populations are small and hyper-segregated, is especially illogical and harmful. It doesn't make any sense for like 10% of the population. Black Americans remain the most isolated urban group despite generations of city living. Unlike cultural clustering that supports newcomers, hyper-segregation disempowers and excludes. But I want to really emphasize there's never such thing as one trick pony. You have to have a suite of things that you to fix these issues. Climate consequence of parking. Parking lots are significant contributors to climate failure and urban environment. They create urban heat islands due to the low albedo asphalt surfaces that absorb and retain heat, raising local temperatures. These impermeable surfaces also increase flood risk by preventing rainfall absorption and contribution to polluted storm water runoff. Cities like Paris have begun to address these issues by removing tens of thousands of on-street parking spaces and converting them into green infrastructure. In the US, off-street parking consumes a large amount of urban land, and in cities with over 1 million residents, an average of a quarter 22 to 25% of downtown land is dedicated to parking. This land could be repurposed for climate resilient uses such as microforests, bioswales, and public plazas. By rethinking parking infrastructure, cities can mitigate environmental risk and enhance resilience against climate change. Solutions, complex systems, not silos, okay? Because you can't fix parking by just looking at parking. We all know that, okay. All right, mobility justice requires investment in infrastructure that supports walking, biking, and public transit. This includes building sidewalks that everyone can use, protected bike lanes, accessible transit hubs. Such infrastructure enables safe and autonomous movement for those who do not own cars, addressing disparities in transportation access by removing the reliance on the car. We're trying to give people independence. You can't just remove parking and then not give people a way to get around. You can't remove parking places that have no public transit or no bike lanes, or they literally people who are poor or just people who are women who make less money can't afford to live there. It also supports climate goals by reducing emissions and promoting sustainable transportation. Cities must prioritize mobility options that reflect the diverse needs of their residents, ensuring that everyone can navigate urban environments with dignity and freedom. And it kind of would go like, the current approach for climate solutions are like green gentrification or carbon neutral luxury towers. And the thing is that the U.S. housing crisis, it isn't just a market failure. It's a hierarchy of whose safety, labor, and dignity are valued. It reflects a system where housing is a commodity and not a right, and where design assumes independence over interdependence, and where everyone rarely includes disabled, poor, queer, migrant, people who get old. The problem isn't just high rent or NIMBYism, it's the very logic of housing is built on exclusion. And because we're running a little bit on time, I'm gonna skip some of the stuff. One effective solution is to convert existing, but the thing is that my whole point was we need to have housing and public transit in order to start converting parking. But one effective solution is converting existing parking lots to climate infrastructure. This includes creating microforests, bioswales, permeable surfaces, public plazas, cooling corridors. I keep saying this because I want it to actually happen. Such transformations not only improve environmental resilience, but also reclaim public space for community use. In cities with high parking density like San Bernardino, Wichita, San Bernardino 49%. Wow. Wichita 35%, Salt Lake City 29%. And I think I got this from the Parking Reform Network. There is ample opportunity to repurpose land for more productive use and inclusive uses. These changes benefit everyone, even those excluded historically from car culture. By prioritizing green infrastructure over vehicle storage, cities can address climate goals while enhancing public health and spatial equity. Another thing that's interesting about parking is parking enforcement regimes often lead to over-policing of marginalized communities and historically excluded. Surveillance technology deployed on parking zones can disproportionately target women, transgender people, and people of color. To create safer, more inclusive public spaces, cities should reduce enforcement-heavy parking policies and remove surveillance infrastructure. Instead, investment should be made directly towards community-led safety initiatives that prioritize trust and equity. Decriminalizing movements in urban spaces ensure that public spaces are accessible and welcome to all, not just those who drive. This approach aligns with broader goals of spatial justice and human-centered urban planning. And I think another thing that we should think about is in these areas that we have these slumlords, they essentially they don't enforce the parking rules, and they do that so that people can exploit people and get people who have like essentially put 5 or 6 people in, or 5 or 6 families in one building, and essentially, have all of this parking, but it's exploitative. If we had a situation where we had actual rent control, real rent control, you wouldn't have this kind of extractive, uh, practices going on. And I know it's very strange to say, but it's only had 30 minutes. I have more to say on in regards to these these little like, but what if I have a whole bunch of what ifs that I would love to discuss in a 2-hour talk. But my friends, that is it in regards to my presentation. I hope you viewed it as useful. Yes. Yeah. All righty here, Lauren. Yes, and am I supposed to be waiting for somebody to say something, or do I just read people's questions? I I think the question, Steve Levy, independence versus interdependence. I talk about this all the time in my class, and I think how we get there are by really focusing on pro-social policies. David Sloan Wilson is doing a lot of really great work on pro-social policies and not dividing people. I think I, I always tell people I'm a radical integrationist, and that's whether gender, race, culture, etc. Even when I see helpful programs or things that are supposed to be like helping people, and I see it segregated, I'm like, you're just even if you're doing good work, you're continuing the exclusion. Even if you're, oh, but we're getting everyone who was purple housing, but they're still segregated. Like that's not helping. Like, right? You get that, right? Um, yeah. Joe, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be waiting for Danae to like call people? Listen, okay. Joe, How am I messing
Joy.
that name up? Joy Williams,
Joy.
Washington. How am I messing
Yeah.
that name up? It's so easy.
It's okay. It's all right. It's pronounced joy. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm like trying to make it super fancy. I'm like, yeah, it's
like joie.
yeah. What am I doing?
It's
Okay,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you so much for this presentation. Yeah, I'm currently running for office. I'm currently a council person in a very small town where we get complaints about not enough parking, but we recently devoted some of our budget to kind of do like a parking relief. Like it's usually $1.50 per hour for parking, and I think if you're in a certain area, you get to save 25 cents. So we ended up covering that. So like, how would I, kind of apply this form to what I'm doing as I'm running for mayor of the town?
Which town is this?
This is Media, Pennsylvania, in a suburban in Philadelphia area.
Well, to me, I feel like a lot of times you have to figure out, every city is different. Every place is different. So there's not going to be like one answer. But I would think like, if parking is something, a parking benefit district, this is something that Dr. Shoup talked about a lot. Like, okay, well, if you feel like you have to have parking and you are charging for it, is there a way that you can take some of that money and create more safer streets? Is it, have, you can have not safer streets. I hate using that term. Accessible streets. We want to use accessible streets. We want to have public transit. We want to have, and I'm also too, I'm a very big fan of light rails. I know people are kind of like, they really want to talk about buses, but I'm sorry, no one wants to ride a bus, really. I mean, I'm not sorry, I'm not like, maybe like if I was in Colombia and Bogota, I would be like, okay, maybe the bus is cool. But like, I think like changing the way we talk about public transit, talking about it in an uplifting way, like when as a teacher, as a professor, I ask my students all the time, who takes public transit, who rides their bike? And I raise my hand. They're always kind of shocked. And the first when I ask that, none of them raise their hand. I teach in Newark. None of them raise their hand. It's like, oh, I'm not a loser, whatever. And I go, I take it. And they're like, but you're cool. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm cool. And I take the train and I ride my bike. And I think that this is going to be the kind of way, I think a lot of times it's this story that we have like, oh my goodness, like people who don't have anything, they're riding the bike and then we feel so bad. That's not going to get people to ride their bike or take public transit. Nobody wants to be, even people who are in that position don't want you talking about them that way. And I always think about my head, like, I think about, maybe like a parking garage could like sponsor like a light rail or something like that. I don't know like how where you are, but like it could kind of be like, oh, this is our light rail. Like this is our, so it's kind of like making it, I think we need to change how we talk about public transit, change how we talk about bike riding, change the narrative and make it inspiring, so that people from where you are, that, yeah, the Salt Lake City's light rail is nice. I mean, I don't know if I helped you, but if you, I want to be able to look at your city because I will tell you something. I have different solutions for different places. I was talking about my friend. It was in Montclair and like South Montclair, and they're just like, oh, they're like, aren't you happy because they're charging for parking at this place? And I said, I'm gonna tell you something. There's a thing called extractive capitalism. Not everything is going to work in the same way. If you are redeveloping an area and you are actively doing certain things to exclude people, and then you're charging, that's going to be, for me, I'm going to have a different answer for you than I would have in a suburban area. Also, too, especially it's like it's just like a asphalt parking, like they didn't even build on it. They just put prices on it. They didn't like build on it. They didn't put like a microforest. They put essentially a swap meet with craft beer, and then they told grandma you got to pay $5 to park there. So that's.
Yeah. It's very
Okay,
helpful.
I'm gonna look this up though. Yeah, but I'm still saying I'm very like, I'm one of the people that I'm very much like, I'm be straight up with you. I'm really honest. I don't like cars. I don't drive. I tried like not to drive. I don't like cars. I don't like parking. I'm like, my friends are like, oh no. And I was like, I even tell my husband, I'm like, you should, I know. I say I don't drive, but my husband does drive. I'm trying to get him to stop driving, but I even tell him, I say, guess what? I said, you should pay for parking. He's looking for free parking. I'm like, why are you looking for free parking? You're going to kill somebody. That's what I tell him, because he's looking for free parking. He's from Wisconsin. He's looking for free parking. I'm like, you're going to kill someone. Um, which is, yeah. Oh, can you talk about the media Pennsylvania? Is it like a light rail or something there?
Yeah, so we have a SEPTA trolley that goes through the middle of town. What we do is that I think during events, we end up kind of stopping the trolley like at a like earlier, it usually goes to Orange Street. Sometimes we stop at like outside of the event area on like a few blocks away, but we do pay them. We do pay them for, you know, the inconvenience for the hours that we're going to like kind of obstruct their route for the day. So like every Wednesday, for example, we have dining under the stars. We have, you know, restaurants put like tables in the street so people can dine al fresco and people can kind of play in the streets and everything. It's in its 18th year, I believe. So we also have like weekend events where we do like kind of this similar thing. And so I really do appreciate um your presentation, because I really am also against like free parking. I honestly don't like driving. I can't really say that too loud with my husband, but I don't like driving. I never did. Like I was born in Philly, and I'm just so used to like walking to places that are like closest to me. So when I did live in like really what do you call it, like big suburbs and like with the sprawl, I was like really sad and just like felt more isolated. So that's why I chose media to live, and I chose media to like run for office, because a lot of people should know more about my town. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm really against free parking, because like you said, with elite capture, it really does benefit more of the uh, people who can like they basically want to bring their big SUVs into town, park their private property all day, and then, you know, and not give back to the community. I just feel like, you know, we have a tagline called everybody's hometown, but I feel like it's everybody's doormat at certain times when they want to request free parking permanently. And the best that we could do with our budget is like, okay, you can save a quarter. We put in some money to, you know, kind of give some relief. So far, people so far people are liking that. But you know, I still worry about people like, you know, asking us to do more. But then, you know, we also have to do more things with uh doing more with preventing like the heat island effect, because that happens a lot on Stage Street. It's just basically all concrete, and some blocks are pretty covered with trees, but there are businesses who are like, they don't want trees in front of their signs because they're afraid that the trees are going to block the signs, which is a whole other thing. It's like we're yeah.
I'm really for parking. Like I'm really for park. If you're gonna have parking, I'm really for parking like underground where you can't see it, and like putting
Okay.
like not like I don't like this whole idea where I just have a lot and I'm just gonna just put it there and just put some paint on it, and then I'm gonna charge people money, not do anything, not put a forest, not do anything with it. Like that to me is extractive capitalism. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, there's you know, I know some people get. I tell people I'm a Keynesian. I'm not a Marxist. I'm Keynesian. So I'm like there are you know benefits. There are ways that you can do capitalism and kindly. But that's not doing it that way. That's not doing it that way. And I guess I want to know with does the light rail interact with the bus, and does that help? Does it get more people to take the bus or no?
Um, um, there are people who like we're the county seat of Delaware County, so some people do take the trolley to the courthouse, which has a stop at Veteran Square, which is like right in the middle of our town. But it's really, you know, like I think we could do a better job with like encouraging people to take the trolley, but like since we're part of the Philadelphia network, we just had to deal with some, you know, funding issues. So I think we have like a 2-year funding plan that keeps the service up. But like, yeah, I think it really is worth it for us to, you know, make sure people know that we do have a trolley that does service the middle of town, but then we also have to be realistic with a lot of people who do come to media who are not able to be serviced by the trolley network or the SEP network because they're pretty far away from it. So they end up driving in anyway.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We're you know, I'm interested in your area. I had to keep like in my head when you said media. I'm like, my LA brain was like, I don't. Oh my God. Like I didn't start drinking yet. Okay. Anyway. Like,
Yeah, I don't want to take up all the time. Yeah, but
no,
thank
no,
you
no,
so
no.
much for the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Does anybody else have any questions or anything? Or, because the thing is this is that, if you guys felt this was interesting, please reach out, um, and check out Sprawlism. I talk about a lot of these topics a lot. Our community's revamping park policy. Last month, there's an article about increased parking costs will hurt downtown record. Our community doesn't have good transit and how do you respond? Argument. I gotta think about that in regards to an answer, but I feel like, essentially, if having to charge for parking, I think that the business owner should either the business owners, I think maybe it should be a parking district. Again, use the parking benefit district. If they feel like, oh, we have to have parking, we have to allow it here, et cetera, then well, fine. Then we're going to take a cut of it so that we can make good public transportation, so that people don't have to have a car to live there, or we're going to take some of that portion of that money so that we can build housing that people can afford. You don't have to just accept, oh, well, we can't do it because of this. I mean, that's one of the things they always trying to do. And I'm trying to really try to come up with a good argument. Oh, I could think I do have a good argument, but not right now because it's like, almost out of time. But you want an argument like, okay, you're saying, oh, we have, a downtown and we have people there and they're not going to be able to afford to work here. They can't afford to live by the area because it's too expensive and they have to have a car. Like, people, I don't know I would personally, I don't know how long that argument is going to last. An average car is $50,000. They're putting people who are poor in subprime loans in these cars. They're going to break down. It's only a matter of time before that argument is done. It's like done because at one point you could play this game, but if you're to the point where your workers are too or can't afford to live near you, and you don't have public transit, but they need your job. They need to drive all the way down there to get a job. Eventually, their cars are going to break down. And eventually, people are going to run out of money if they haven't already done so. They're going to need to come up with another plan. They can't keep using it. And plus, two, they don't care about their workers anyway. They're just saying that. That's just like one of these. That's one of the things that they just like to say. I said I have a different talk that we'll talk about that directly. But the thing is that this fight is typically for NIMBYs and the things that they do. Because I think it's so funny that a lot of these times these NIMBYs, I actually went to this meeting. They don't care about parking. They don't, no, they don't care about people of color. They don't care about transgender people. But then you want to build up a house, and all of a sudden, oh my God, what about the black people? What about the transgender people? Like you didn't care about that until it's they're just lying. But we have to figure out a better way to say it. Rather than and that's the thing. I'm not I would never be. I am never going to be a politician. I'm never going to be a consultant because I'm just going to tell you you're a liar. Get away from me. Sorry. Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you a way to say it, and you could say it nicer. Um, and yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think we're done now, right? It's like 8:20. I'm supposed to be done at 8:15. I'm so sorry. I know from, do you have any insights on how we can push for walkable transit and less emphasis on parking? I have neighbors who have an antique Stark and I've abandoned it. Well, we need several things going on in Los Angeles. Number one, we need to have housing that people can afford, but also we need to have public transit that people actually because we have no center, it's very hard. We have we call it it's dysfunctionally dense. We actually have a very dense city, but it's dysfunctionally dense because we don't have a job center. So you're like, where would you put everybody? Where would you try to and I think that the answer is going to be a combination of housing. And I look at the eco village. You guys know the eco village, and if you're in Los Angeles, they have a thing called the eco village. Eco village in Koreatown, they have a lot of co-ops that are actually like they were at one point they were quite affordable. We can use that kind of situation where we're getting public land and creating co-ops. We're especially around we have a lot of public land in Los Angeles. We need to turn some of the public land into cooperative housing that is tied to the income of the area. I mean, the way HUD's set up is also another problem. The way they have the area median income, that means that somebody in like Watts and somebody in Beverly Hills, they're competing for the same prices for housing, because it's an area. It's not like a zip code. So that's kind of wild in a way. So if it's the median income and you have places where people are making $250,000, $500,000 a year, and then you have people making $20,000 a year, and the median income is like 100. The median ends up being 100. Then you end up being too poor to afford the affordable housing. And that is another thing. People too poor to drive affordable to afford affordable housing. So that's another thing that we need to talk about. In Los Angeles, they could do it. Like I know there are other places they can't do it, but we could actually come up with our own like neighborhood area median income or something like that. Okay. But these are all good questions. All good questions. And sprawlism, maybe we'll have a whole bunch of essays answering all these questions. So these are all different essays that I could write about. And please visit my page. Visit sprawlism. Oh, and listen to my friend Kimberly and I. Kimberly, my good friend Kimberly and I, we are Kimberly Clark and I, auto asphyxiation, which is it's about cars. But be careful if you Google it at work.
We can extend for 7 more minutes if someone has a question. So now's the time.
Okay.
I always love talking to you, Lo, and everything. I learn new words, I learn new topics. Yeah, I really enjoy everything. Spiralism, if someone has another question, please feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat. But I'm going to copy paste here Lo's webpage for you to visit. It's Spiralism here. She has a great podcast and she's great.
Well, thank you. And I even I really tried hard, like, because I'm really trying to get them to not capture feminist urbanism and turning it into just, you have a baby, and if we just figure out a way to take care of your baby, because I'm like, that's not exactly why sexism exists. It's not just that, because even if and I think it's really interesting how they've captured that and like they've turned it into like this whole thing about a stroller. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just interesting. That's the only thing they talk about now. And I'm like, that's I have to actively go like, hey, I want to talk about this, but how can I not talk about that one topic so much? Yeah, the city people, the city of New Jersey. People do either people really like that or they're really like, why are you doing that? Um, yes, I do have a website, Sprawlism. That's a website that she put down. Um, but thank you guys so much. It was so great, and I'm sorry that I was talking so fast, and I just had to get a lot in. And since you're not my students, I can't keep you trapped here. It's when your students are 18 years old and they think that you're amazing, your head gets really big and you just start talking about everything like, I'm so funny, I'm so talented. And they're like, yes, Professor Lo, yes, you are.
Yeah, I think we can start wrapping up. Lo, would you like to leave an email or contact for people to contact you? How can
Yes, Lo, it's easy. Lo at sprawlism.com. See, look at that. So it's really easy. Lo at sprawlism.com. Or you could just Google Lo Sontag. I mean, like, who else? Who else is going to come up? It's going to be me.
I love the great hearing you talk at hyper speed.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, I'm going to wrap up the webinar. If someone wants to send another question, please feel free to reach out to Lo, or invite her through LinkedIn. I'm sure she will also like accepts you. And yeah, well, thank you so much. I think this was a very insightful webinar. I'm just going to thank everyone for being here and for sharing your thoughts.